The Democrats hate their own shutdown, and they're talking to the media anonymously about how terrified they are of their own voters. But the cracks are showing. The beginning of the end is in front of us. We're going to show you all those details and give you a prediction on how this whole thing is going to wrap up. You're going to want to see that. And, oh, she's back. I don't know what we did without her for so long. Karine Jean-Pierre with new hair, but the same old lies. But it's even the lefties in the media who are sick of it and tired of her act. Despite all the boxes she checks, she went down in flames yesterday, and we're here for it. It was glorious. We'll show you every little bit of it. That's coming up in just a sec. And by the way, speaking of going down in flames, Bernie Sanders had a very rough day in the media too. And we're here to pop the popcorn and enjoy it. And you're here with us, and we're glad you are. Thanks for watching. My name's Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry. Every day we think, oh, what are we going to talk about tomorrow? What are we going to? And then they just hand it to us on a silver platter. The American media is so bad. It's great. It's the reason we're here. It's the reason you're here, and we appreciate it. Hello to all of our new subscribers as well. Welcome to the party. Why don't you go ahead and give this video a like? That's what we do during the live stream. If you throw a bunch of thumbs up there at us, you're going to have a whole lot of company in the live chat, and they're a fun group. Don't feed them, though. They get very, very ornery if you throw any snacks at them. Join the live chat. Give us a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed already, do it. Do it now. And we'll get to all your super chats a little later on. Hey, guys, I'm sure you've already seen the buzz about this brand new movie from Dinesh D'Souza. He's done it again. We had a one-on-one interview with him right here on this channel. Go check out that video. It's about 3 weeks ago, I think. Incredible conversation. It's an eye-opening new movie called The Dragon's Prophecy. It illuminates a 3,000-year-old mystery about Israel, the Dark Resurrection, and the end of days. And the nation of Israel is a resurrected nation, right? But what if there was going to be a resurrection of another people, the enemy of Israel? Yeah, it's a tale as old as time, or at least going all the way back to Genesis. After the horrific attack on October 7th, The Dragon's Prophecy offers a new understanding on Israel, radical Islam, anti-Semitism, and biblical prophecy. Could it be that the fate of the world and all of humanity itself is tied to what we're seeing in the Middle East right now? It's based on the #1 international bestseller by Jonathan Cahn. The Dragon's Prophecy reveals how another realm could be transforming our world as we speak. Don't miss it. It's Dinesh D'Souza's new masterpiece, The Dragon's Prophecy. Watch it right now or buy the DVD at salemnow.com. That's salemnow.com. At his morning press conference today, Speaker Mike Johnson threw down the gauntlet at Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, or whoever's calling the shots over there for the Democrats. And we're already seeing the entire coalition start to crumble away. They're speaking anonymously to the media about how terrified they are of their own base. It's hilarious to watch. Here comes Speaker Johnson. Look at that. This is a confident man. And watch him lay it out there for you, the American people.
They have demanded in exchange, as a ransom, the hostage they've taken to reopen the government. They're demanding taxpayer-funded health benefits be restored to illegal aliens. They're demanding that we spend billions of dollars overseas for ridiculous programs that the American people do not support. They want to claw back the $50 billion that we just got signed into law on July 4th to support our rural hospitals and all sorts of other crazy things. They're demanding taxpayer-funded health benefits for illegal aliens instead of agreeing to pay our men and women in uniform and provide vital health services and all the things that our most vulnerable Americans depend upon. It is unforgivable.
All right, so now you know all of that already, but what I like about what Speaker Johnson has been doing with these 10 a.m. press conferences is he just repeats it. He stays on message, and he just lets the American people know, because not everybody is plugged in like you. Not everybody has been watching our show every day through this whole thing. So they might not know the fact that the Democrats are the ones, #1, who have refused to fund the government. The votes are there for the Republicans. The Republicans have voted almost every day in the Senate to reopen the government, but the Democrats haven't allowed for the end of debate, cloture. You need 60 votes for that. Now, they've got 2 Democrats now joining Republicans finally, but they need another 6, I believe, to make the numbers work so that they can actually fund the government. And the reason that they laid out there was that they want to make sure that taxpayer dollars are going to prop up Medicaid in the states where it's falling apart. Those would be the states who are providing free health care for illegal immigrants. It's not free, though, of course. You're paying for it. And I love the fact that Speaker Johnson keeps laying it out. Watch a little bit more.
And this is an indisputable fact. Everybody can see this, and everybody in this room knows what I'm about to say is true. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are terrified of their far left base in New York and around the country. So they have given in to their demands to shut down the government so that they themselves can get the left's approval and somehow salvage their political careers. That is the whole story in one sentence, okay? That's why Schumer said shamelessly that every day of the shutdown gets better for us. Who's the us? He's talking about he and Hakeem and the Democrats who are afraid of the far left base.
Yeah, and let me just reiterate, for those of you who are sadly getting inundated with your liberal or Democrat friends on your Facebook page or at the cubicle 3 offices down at work or at the coffee machine or on the sideline of your kids' soccer games. Why do we go to these soccer games with 6-year-olds? It's like a giant pack of children following the ball around the field, and it's just nonsense. But you're standing there and you're being a supportive parent, and then you got your liberal parent of the kid that your kid happens to like and hang out with, but you didn't know that his parent was a miserable liberal Democrat, and they're inundating you with lies. The fact of the matter is, Chuck Schumer's worst political day of his career was earlier this year when he did the right thing and continued the funding of the government back in March. He was attacked relentlessly, mercilessly, and that's when the drumbeat started of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez challenging Chuck Schumer for the Democrat nomination for Senate in New York. That's how AOC rose to power, you know. She challenged an old, established Democrat in New York who was part of Nancy Pelosi's establishment leadership class there. She rose up with her pitchforks and her torches and her hammer and her sickle, and she challenged him. The dude was just like Chuck Schumer is now. And while the whole playbook is unfolding before our eyes, Chuck Schumer is terrified of that. Not because Chuck Schumer loves being in the Senate, not because Chuck Schumer loves all the money he makes and all the influence he has. No, it's because Chuck Schumer is a liberal Democrat, and therefore he must retain power. He wants power. That's what they all want, is power. Power and control over your lives. AOC threatens Chuck Schumer's grasp on power. So this time around, when it came time to vote for funding of the government, the conditions are exactly the same. It's the exact same thing Chuck Schumer voted on in March when he had the worst day of his political career. This time they said no. And they've propped up this fig leaf about the Affordable Care Act, about the unaffordable Affordable Care Act and Obamacare, demanding that your tax dollars go to subsidize insurance companies who have benefited the most from Obama's boondoggle 15 years ago. So this is all about. They are terrified of Hakeem Jeffries. I mean, please. He's on the verge of being voted out of leadership because he's been so pathetic during this whole thing. His best days in this entire government shutdown was when he put on that fake Mexican bandito mustache and the sombrero. That was awesome. I thought he was brilliant. I'm sorry, what? Oh, Trump did that? That was a meme. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so then he hasn't had a good day at all. All right, so Johnson continues here.
So today I want to put a finer point on some of the very real consequences we're seeing and what they mean for Americans around the country. And I'll zoom in on some of these key Democrat states where the senators continue to dig their heels in and vote against opening the government. Yesterday from NBC News, here's the headline: Air traffic control staffing issues cause flight delays across the country. The Secretary of Transportation said 53% of flight delays are now due to staffing issues, and usually that number is 5%. From Colorado, food banks face growing crises as shutdown impacts become a reality. That's the headline from Sky High News. What are Colorado's 2 Democrat senators doing? You've got Hickenlooper and Bennett. They've both now voted 11 times to keep the government closed. Virginia, here's the headline yesterday, KSL. Virginia employees fear shutdown's impact on veterans' medical care. And meanwhile, There are 2 Democrat senators, Tim Kaine and Mark Warner, have voted repeatedly to put their thumb in the eye of those veterans, and they won't end this pain. From Hawaii, Hawaii News Now says, headline, government shutdown impacts telehealth for seniors in Hawaii. Seniors in Hawaii rely upon telehealth. Guess who's shutting it down? There are 2 Democrat senators, Brian Schatz and Mazie Hirono, voted again and again to keep the government closed and disrupt the health services for seniors in their own state. They've got a lot to answer to.
I'm just going to interrupt for a quick second, but I just want to point out, and I hope you join me, I love that he's doing this. He's naming names, and he's naming the names of these Democrat senators who were grandstanding on your pain and your suffering. He's naming their name and connecting them directly to a program in their state that's about to go belly up, which frankly will now be vulnerable to actually getting cut completely if necessary from the Director of Office and Management and Budget, Russ Vought, and from the President of the United States. This is great. This is also brilliant because, you know, this gets picked up on local media. Local media, generally speaking, even in blue states and blue cities, not nearly as biased as the Washington, D.C. political media. They're starved for content. Understand something. Let's say you're the local television station in Honolulu, and you've got to get a fresh new perspective on the government shutdown story out of Washington, D.C. You can either grab some national feed coming from CNN or some other Sinclair or whoever else is covering the story in D.C. and have it be generic, or you're sitting in a newsroom right now. Hey, the Speaker of the House just mentioned our senator in a program right here in the state. All right, before the 5 o'clock news starts, hey, Daisy, why don't you go out there and interview people over at that agency? We'll find out what they think of it, and we'll do a whole package on it on the local news. This is a brilliant media strategy from Republican leadership. There's a sentence I've never used before, and that's why this is effective. Go ahead.
From California, here's a headline, ABC 7 News. Alameda food banks step in to help TSA workers, families impacted by government shutdown. That is disgusting. And both of California's senators, Padilla and Schiff, have voted 11 times to block the pay of those TSA agents and their families, the paychecks they rely upon. From Illinois, WIFR, yesterday, federal courts in northern Illinois reduce operations due to government shutdown. The courts are reducing operations, and you've got Illinois Democrats, Senators Duckworth and Durbin have voted to keep the government closed. We can do this all day long. That's a sample. Democrats used to care about the harm that shutdowns caused hardworking Americans, but now we can all see very clearly that was always based on politics and not principle, because they have thrown the principle out the window. And yesterday, there was an article from The Hill that laid bare that very fact. A Democrat senator was speaking anonymously and admitted, quote, people are going to get hammered if they vote for the House passed bill to reopen the government. The clean, nonpartisan CR, they're going to get hammered. Another insider said in that same story, quote, we would have enough votes to reopen the government if people were not terrified of getting the guillotine, okay? They mean it metaphorically, but in a political sense, that's exactly what they're concerned about. Now think about the fact that we're just laying out here. These are simple facts. We come out here every morning and remind the American people of what's going on. Do not let them distract you from the facts. The American people would have an open government if Democrats were not terrified of their radical base. That is the headline. Every single one of you should write that. That's the ugly truth. The Democrats are not governing in good faith. They're covering their own tail. They're out here decrying the so-called forthcoming health care crisis, they say. It's the one that they themselves created. The Democrats created Obamacare. They're the ones that created a subsidy with an expiration date. They're the ones that did all of this. Republicans are trying to fix it. And they're trying to blame Republicans for the crisis they themselves created. They cry foul when we won't bail them out of their own shutdown. I don't have anything to offer, as I've explained. I don't have any partisan priority I can pull off of the CR to make it more palatable for them. There's nothing to negotiate. They just have to do what they've always done in the past, that they did 13 times during the Biden administration, and they did as recently as March of this year, to open the government so that people can get their services and their paychecks. And they go before cameras incredibly, and they just lie to the American people over and over. It's a stunning thing to watch.
It is. And that right there was a stunning thing to watch, too, because we're not used to Republicans who can speak and communicate and actually stay on message and make really, really solid points. you can't say it enough. Democrats are holding you hostage, holding your government hostage, your services hostage, military pay, we'll get to that in a second, hostage, because they are demanding that your tax dollars go to subsidize insurance companies that got rich because Democrats and Barack Obama 15 years ago ruined the healthcare system in America. Where's the lie? There is none. And right now, if your premiums, which are already too expensive, are about to shoot through the roof, it's not because the cost of healthcare has suddenly gone up in the last couple of months. It's because your premiums have been artificially lowered because of the subsidies from federal tax dollars that were only implemented during COVID-19 and the pandemic. And now they're about to sunset. They should have sunsetted a couple of years ago, by the way. And now they demand that the Republicans come in and authorize more tax dollars to artificially make health insurance look cheaper than it really is. But it isn't cheap. It's incredibly expensive. And it's because Democrats broke the entire system with Obamacare and, ironically, called the whole thing the Affordable Care Act. Lie after lie after lie. I don't know what was more devastating, though, there. Naming the senators and linking them to the programs that are shut down right now because of their obstinance and their petulance, or the anonymous senator that was quoted in The Hill. What's worse, being named and shamed publicly, or having to hide under the cloak of anonymity and speak to a reporter at The Hill, referenced there by Speaker Johnson? Quote, people are going to get hammered if they vote for the House passed bill to reopen the government and keep it funded through November 21st, said one Democrat senator who requested anonymity to talk candidly about their party. You have to be anonymous to speak candidly about the Democrats. A second person familiar with the political dynamics within the Senate Democrat caucus who spoke with The Hill ahead of the No Kings protest said centrist senators are fearful of breaking with leaders while party activists are planning the anti-Trump rallies. Quote, we would have enough votes to reopen the government if people were not terrified of getting the guillotine, the second person said. And yes, Speaker Johnson said she thinks he's talking about a rhetorical guillotine, but I don't know if you saw, there literally was a guillotine at some of these protests. And I guess the media thought that it was really meant to chop off the head of Donald Trump, the king, which I guess they're okay with, by the way, but that's sort of a suggestion that they want to assassinate the president of the United States. You know, the guy who's already endured 2 assassination attempts, and now they found a sniper nest out there 300 yards away from the runway at Palm Beach Airport in direct vision where President Trump comes down the steps from Air Force One. And if you look at Google Maps or Bing Maps or any kind of online satellite map to take a look at the area where the West Palm Beach International Airport is, I assure you, there's no hunting around there. There's a golf course because it's West Palm Beach, Florida. There's a Taco Bell. There's suburbia. And there's an interstate. There's no reason for a hunting hide there. It's a sniper's nest. And so, of course, they rolled out a guillotine for the No Kings protest. But here's the thing. Sure, the guillotine was probably meant as a prop, symbolism about ending Trump's presidency, I suppose. But maybe it was also an intimidation tactic to send the message to these Democrats who, as you say, people are terrified of getting the guillotine. They're terrified of their own voters. They're terrified of their own base. That's why the government is shut down. That's why the Smithsonian museums are closed. That's why you can't go to national parks. And that's why there's various other things that the government is supposed to do that isn't happening right now. But I got to tell you something. This would be a much bigger story were it not for the political brilliance, not just of Speaker Mike Johnson, as you've seen, but of President Donald Trump. Yesterday on the program, I showed you a clip of the government shutdown under Barack Obama, where he deliberately went out of his way to close down open-air monuments on the National Mall just because he wanted a photo op of people being angry and upset because of the Republicans shutting down the government, right? Remember that clip? But you know what was really amazing about that clip? It was from CNN 2014. In the lower right corner on the CNN screen, they had in big red numbers, the government shutdown clock, right? They love their clocks. They love their death tallies during COVID-19. So they had the clock going every second of the day on CNN, the government shutdown clock. Go turn on CNN right now. Well, no, don't turn on CNN right now. But if you did right now, you wouldn't see that clock. They're not covering it. They're not drawing attention to the government shutdown. Why? Because right now the blame is about 50-50 Republicans or Democrats, which is a huge Republican win. If Donald Trump had not brilliantly done a political maneuver around the Democrats and shuffled money at the Pentagon away from other projects so that the payroll could be met last week, so that enlisted people in the military who are maybe a corporal, an E2, maybe an E3, who's married, 26 years old with 2 kids, who can't go without a paycheck. If Donald Trump had not made sure that paycheck went through, trust me, this would be a very different story right now. And it's just one of the reasons why Democrats are waving the white flag. Don't believe me? Not just that Hill story. Take a look at this Hill story this morning. Senator Thune, majority leader in the Senate, says that it's time for the House to return to D.C. Now, you'll remember, the House has passed their continuing resolution to fund the government. They've done their job. They're waiting on the Senate. So they've gone home, put them on recess. That was also a brilliant move, by the way. Thune is now saying maybe it's time for the House to come back. Why is that important? Because he thinks he's got the votes now. So why do you need the House? Well, here, let me read it with you. Senate Majority Leader John Thune of South Dakota said Monday, the government shutdown has dragged on for so long that it's time to start thinking about bringing the GOP-controlled House back to Washington to pass a new stopgap funding bill. The House last voted September 19th when it passed H.R. 5371, a clean continuing resolution funding the government until November 21st, and then they sent the bill to the Senate. Since then, Thune has brought the measure to the Senate floor 10 times, and Senate Democrats have blocked it 10 times. Thune acknowledged Monday the House may need to come back soon to pass a new government funding stopgap since the November 21 end date of the pending continuing resolution is now a month away. You get it? So in other words, on September 21st, they passed a 2-month extension. Democrats haven't approved it in the Senate. As of September 30th at midnight, going into the new fiscal year, there's no more money since there was no continuing resolution. Now, Thune thinks he's going to have the votes. The problem is, if they finally vote on the bill that they've already put forth, they're only going to be funded through November 21st. So 4 weeks from now, we're going to go through the same thing again, right in front of Thanksgiving, right in front of Christmas. So they need a new bill to extend the funding well past November 21st. They need a new continuing resolution. And my money is on extending it all the way into January of 2026. Pretty sure they don't want to deal with this over Christmas. So it looks like it's starting to get resolved. We're going to get the government funded again. Democrats are waving the white flag. There's only one bit of business for Democrats that they still want to take care of. I mean, because they're super responsible as elected officials, leaders of our nation. You know, there's only 535 members of Congress in the Senate, and a little under half of them are Democrats, and they are patriotic Americans who have their eye on the prize and are really focused on the priorities of the American people, as Majority Leader Steve Scalise pointed out today.
Senator Ossoff thinking about all this. Another Democrat said, Senator Ossoff's calculation is, quote, do I vote to open the government up and get crushed and can't raise a single dollar of low dollar money? Or do I vote to shut the government down and get $3 million from online fundraising? That's disgusting. Senator Ossoff is more concerned about getting low dollar donations from maybe some donor in California who's going to click on an email and give him $100 for his reelection. And so he's causing suffering on tens of thousands of people in his home state of Georgia. Senator Ossoff ought to send that tainted, dirty money back if he's raised $3 million off of the shutdown, off of the suffering he's caused, just so that he can get some more money from radicals around the country. Go look at his finance report during the shutdown. The low dollar donations that he's more concerned about getting than opening up the government, which is the right thing to do. because they're scared to death of their base, because they want to keep getting low-dollar donations from the most radical members of the Democrat Party.
There you go. And that's 100% what's happening here. Senators like Doug Ossoff, who's facing an existential re-election bid next year in Georgia, is more interested in raising his $3 million, $2 and $3 at a time from the lunatics who live in Gavin Newsom's California than he is about doing the right thing for the people of Georgia and also for the American people. The whole thing has been a political calculation from beginning to end. You see exactly who they are, and it's not a pretty picture. Buy gold and get free silver. Wow. That sounds like a pretty good deal. For every $5,000 purchased from Birch Gold Group this month in advance of Veterans Day, they're going to send you a free patriotic silver round that commemorates the Gadsden and American flags. Look, gold is up over 40% since the beginning of this year, and Birch Gold can help you own it by converting an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. And they're going to send you free silver, honoring veterans on qualifying purchases. And if you're currently or a former member of the military, Birch Gold has a special offer just for you. They're waiving custodial fees for the first year on investments of any amount. Birch Gold has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. They got tens of thousands of happy customers, many of which are you, by the way. Thanks for that. I encourage you to find out how you can diversify your savings into gold. Text my name, Larry, to 989898. You're going to get a free info kit, and you're going to claim your eligibility for free silver with qualifying purchases before the end of this month. Again, text my name, Larry, to 989898. Do it today. If you're like me, you lay awake at night staring at the ceiling, pining away for just one more glimpse, one more moment, one more tirade of lies coming out of the mouth of one Karine Jean-Pierre, the former White House spokesperson under Joe Biden. That's right, that little Raggedy Ann mop top, little cute as a button, checking all the boxes, KJP. She was so cute when she lied and stammered and couldn't keep her thoughts straight. She was actually the worst press secretary in all of history, but now she's got a much bigger job to do. She's got a book to sell. The media blitz started yesterday, and it was a disaster for her. Let's start with this morning, actually, on Morning Joe. Karine Jean-Pierre, I'm so sorry. What is that? What? That's not my Karine Jean-Pierre. What is that? Is that Timo Beyonce? What is going on here? What? Hold on. This is Karine Jean-Pierre. That's Karine Jean-Pierre. I don't know what the hell this is. Who is she? What have you done with my Karine Jean-Pierre? What is she thinking? She's trying to sell a book. She's an international brand. She's known by a very specific look. Now she's rolling out in media and she completely changes her look. She literally does look like a different person. Also, I'm confused. So which hairstyle is the appropriated one? Is this what her hair usually looks like? And she appropriated the Raggedy Ann sort of mop top situation? Or is her natural hair the mop top Raggedy Ann thing, and now she's trying to look like one of Charlie's Angels? All right, let's set it aside. I don't mean to be petty. Let's focus on the content of her character rather than the style of her hair.
How to move forward. And for me, as a Black woman, as a person who's also LGBTQ, I feel as if those communities that I am part of largely get taken for granted. And I see that today in groups that are being thrown under the bus for a short-term win. And it is not the big tent party that I loved and enjoyed and was part of and fought for. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I want to start a conversation with how do we fix this? The system is indeed broken. The two-party system is not functioning in the way where our democracy is being protected right now. I feel as if the Democratic Party right now is too timid They're not speaking up. We need to be, they need to have a strategy and be really clear about how they're moving forward in this moment. And when I left the administration on January 20th, I was hearing from people. I would go around. I'm sure you all hear from folks too, as you're going to the supermarket and doing the business of your day. And people would come up to me and they would say, "What's happening? What's going on? Why isn't the Democratic Party fighting? Where's their teeth? Why are they not standing up?" They knew this was coming. And it really broke me. It broke my heart to hear it because people were crying. People were upset about this. And so this is my way of using my platform to have a conversation, to start a conversation.
She's just trying to sell books. And she can't even do that well. A lot to unpack here in this clip. First of all, does anyone really believe that people come up to her at the grocery store crying because Democrats aren't fighting enough? Number one. Number two, she's left the Democrat Party because they're not fighting hard enough. So then where are you going? Now she's independent. Independent from whom? I mean, this is how the Democrat Socialists of America rise. This is how the communists rise. That's right. Democrats stink. They don't fight hard enough. We will. We know all about it. Grab your hammer and sickle. Let's go. So nobody believes that either. And by the way, honestly, I think it's really important as a newsman carved out and formed by my mentor, Andrew Breitbart. I've been trained to watch a clip like this and pull out the headline, pull out the real nugget of news. And we had something breaking. This is from, I'm shocked no one else has picked it up. Did you hear it? This was from Morning Joe this morning. Karine Jean-Pierre, check it out.
How to move forward. And for me, as a Black woman, as a person who's also LGBTQ.
That's it. There it is. Did you? She's Black, a woman, and gay? I had no idea. If only someone had said something about that before. I mean, most of us just assumed that she got her job because of her talent and expertise as a brilliant communicator, even when the news out of the White House was less than positive. She was always great at spinning it so brilliantly off the top of her head, too. Didn't have to read from a binder. She didn't get lost. She didn't get muddled. But now, apparently, she's also Black, female, and gay. I don't know why they kept that a secret for so long. All right, a little bit more Morning Joe, because they're not buying it either. That's the beauty of this. They have no use for Joe Biden anymore. They certainly don't have any use for Joe Biden's apologists and defenders. The media now looks like the clown show that they are if they try to continue this game that they played back during the Biden administration, that Karine Jean-Pierre instigated and demanded from the media. See, she has no power or influence anymore. And the best thing the media can do is to go after her. How could you have lied to us about Joe Biden and his abilities? So she's got no constituency now. There's no one out there who's rooting for her, who cares about her. Oh, one other note. Did you check in the last clip where she said when she left the administration, honey, child, you did not leave the administration. You lost the election. The American people kicked you out of that office. You did not leave. You were sent packing. Oh, Lordy.
Subhead is a broken White House. You write early in the book here that there's obviously a lot of speculation about President Biden's decision to run for re-election and whether he was up to the job. But you write that you were part of his inner circle and, quote, saw no such decline, the decline that others have said. So talk to us a little bit more about that, about President Biden and how he was doing last year during this re-election campaign. And if it's not questions about his health, what made it a broken White House? So
the broken White House is about this current moment.
Okay.
So that's the clarity that need to, because I was really trying to be, yes, I talk about 3 weeks and I talk about the story of my personal side of the story of what happened and what I saw as White House press secretary. I think I can speak to it more in a different way, more personally even than most people.
So tell us what you...
Wait. So are you catching this? So the book is called Independent, an inside view of a broken White House. And now it turns out, and it's like, oh, okay. She was an insider. She worked for the Biden White House. She was the spokesperson. She knew Biden intimately, and Dr. Jill, and the fights with Kamala and Hunter and the cocaine and all of it. So now you're going to talk to us about that broken White House. Did you catch? Did you catch when she was challenged there? And she said, so exactly what was wrong? No. When I say a broken White House, I mean this current moment. So the broken White House that she's commenting on is the Trump White House? The one that she doesn't work in? Did I catch that properly? By the way, if you're confused and I'm confused about what the hell she's talking about and what this book is really about, it's really a testament to what a great communicator she is. Isn't it? I mean, this is quintessential Karine Jean-Pierre. She was always so clear and so forthright with delivering the truth and facts to the American people. I swear to God, I have no idea what this book is about now. Right? Am I the only one who's saying this? What?
About President Biden and how he was doing last year during this re-election campaign. And if it's not questions about his health, what made it a broken White House?
So the broken White House is about this current moment.
Okay.
So that's the clarity that because I was really trying to be, yes, I talk about 3 weeks and I talk about the story of my personal side.
Wait, so did you, right? I'm not going crazy here. The broken White House that she refers to in the subhead of her book is the Trump White House, which she literally knows nothing about. The only White House she knows anything about is the Biden White House, which apparently was all hunky-dory and perfect. And everything was great. All right, fine. Again, this is just such a disaster. It's beautiful. Let's watch.
For me, and to just understand, I saw the President Biden, almost every day, on a daily basis. And what I judge him on, or what I saw, is from a daily basis. What I was dealing with. He was someone that was engaged. He was someone that he would call me in the Oval Office. I've been telling the story, and I would always be worried because I'm like, okay, he's going to ask me something and I have to have the answer for it. And he would want to know what was in the press. He would want to know if we're pushing back on stories. He would want to know, is our story being out there? And it was always engaging. This is someone that was on top of policy, understood history. And, you know, we've always said we're not going to hide, or we didn't hide that he was aging. And he would poke fun of it. He talked about this. No one is saying that. But he was someone that was aware and engaged and active in what we were doing on a daily basis. And that's what I saw.
Okay, so I want to warn you because we're showing a couple of different clips of Karine Jean-Pierre on her media tour. And you're about to hear her tell pretty much the same story over and over and over again. And what's amazing about that, first of all, is that, you know, you're selling your book. You should probably come up with some sort of creative way to tell the same thing so that you engage people and make them want to read the book. You shouldn't look so transparent so that we know that you've just memorized your talking points and you're repeating them no matter who you're talking to and what the venue is and what the interview is. But also, here's the best thing about it. Nobody believes that book. Nobody believes it. Do you believe that Karine Jean-Pierre was scared and intimidated when she was called into the Oval Office because she couldn't spar with the brilliant, insightful, sharp wit of Joe Biden? Okay, now that I've said it, maybe that is true. But that's really more of a commentary on Karine Jean-Pierre and her abilities than it is about President Biden and his. All right, so yesterday, CBS Mornings. Let's see how Oprah's bestie handled the questioning and her posse.
Because I, too, thought that. And you said, people said, why didn't members of his inner circle speak up about what many believe was the apparent decline of Joe Biden? And you said, you're a member of the inner circle and you never saw the decline. And after that, I wrote, how? Yeah. You even write, Karine, that you were on the plane with him going to the debate and you didn't see anything.
Well, when we were on the Air Force One going to the debate, you got to remember his campaign people were on the team, his family was on the team. I actually was one of those rare trips that I didn't really see him until after the debate, even though I was on the plane. So really, I want everybody to know that I take this question incredibly seriously. I do. I was his White House press secretary, which means I had a role that saw him practically every day and traveled with him.
And you saw nothing.
For more than 95%. We've always said we're not going to say, oh, he didn't age. He aged, and he poked fun at it. We always owned up, and with age comes what happens when you get older,
which is
but when we talk about the mental acuity, and again, I take this very, very seriously. I never saw anyone who wasn't there. I saw someone who was always engaged. I saw someone who understood policy, pushed us on the policy, and also understood history. And there were times, I'll tell you the story, there were times where he would call me into the Oval Office, and I would be like, oh no, because I knew whatever he was going to ask me was going to be direct, was going to be about a story he read, about how we're pushing back, how we're pushing a message forward.
And you write about the people within the party pushing him out. Some would describe those people fighting for a replacement candidate is fighting. But you also describe this current state of the Democratic Party as too timid. And what can the Democratic Party do to get out of this timid and even some will say disappointing place?
So timid that you've gotten out of the Democratic Party.
Here's the thing. I actually think that the system is broken. The two-party system is broken, and we need it to be fixed, to be working in order for a democracy. Look, just this past Saturday, millions of people, 7 million people.
All right, yeah. He goes on to talk about the No Kings thing. So did you catch all of that? Again, the exact same story in the exact same way with the exact same inflection vocally. It's all rehearsed. It's all practiced. These are all the talking points. I don't think that's how you sell a book if what you're trying to convey to the potential buyer of the book that you're genuine and you're telling the real truth, because nobody believes that. Nobody believes that she was terrified about the tough grilling she was going to get from that brilliant intellect, Joe Biden. She's still telling the same lies she told when she was paid to tell lies with your tax dollars. Isn't it amazing that this amazing, sharp, brilliant, quick-witted, on top of everything, transcendent United States president, Joe Biden, was never seen by the rest of us? Only a small, privileged handful of people like Karine Jean-Pierre and Kamala Harris and Jill Biden were able to see that guy. By the way, where are the questions about the auto pen? Where are the questions about the family corruption? Where are the questions about her attacking people like me for showing you videos of Joe Biden's obvious mental decline when she stood there and lied to your face saying these videos are just cheap fakes? They're not telling you what's really happening. And then the debate happens and suddenly Joe Biden has to drop out of the race. Where's the apology for that? Where's a challenge to her on that? Going after journalists like me who told you the truth at the time? And it's pretty rich, by the way, to have a woman who was part of the Biden White House who helped engineer the removal of Joe Biden as the candidate and the coronation of Kamala Harris without one vote being cast to give her the Democrat nomination. It's pretty rich for her to sit here and say, the system is broken. I don't know how it happened, but this system is so broken. And we have to take back our democracy. And yet she was all in for Kamala Harris, who rose to the level of dangerously close to winning the presidency without a single vote cast for her to be the nominee. First time in over a century that that's ever happened. Oh, the system's broken. I don't know who did this. I don't know how it got so broken, but it certainly is. Yeah, you know what breaks democracy? You know what breaks the system? When you have an incapacitated president and people are using his auto pen to sign executive orders, legislation, pardons, and you're paid to stand up there and lie about it. And now you want me to buy a book explaining what a great liar you were and perpetuating the same lie? I don't think so, dear. I miss her old haircut. It got worse for her last night. You'd think you'd get a nice foot massage from Stephen Colbert. No, siree.
I saw a guy who I had not seen backstage at the benefit that I did. It seemed like a dramatically different person. And at 81 years old.
Wait, I'm sorry. I got to jump in here because you may have missed it. I just want to make sure everyone recognizes what Stephen Colbert did just there. That's not the guy I saw at the benefit I did. It wasn't a benefit. It was a political fundraiser, dude. You're a hack. You're a late night talk show comedian, and you lent yourself out to raise money for one political party. And for one guy, because you're not an entertainer, you're a political activist, and now he's trying to rewrite history and say, oh, it was a benefit. Oh, it was for children with cancer. It was for orphans. It was for saving the whales. It was a political fundraiser. You lying hack. All right, sorry. Go ahead.
Backstage at the benefit that I did, it seemed like a dramatically different person. And at 81 years old, that's not entirely unexpected. You can imagine why people got so worried.
So, a couple of things. I got to see Joe Biden almost every day. And this is a question that I take very seriously. No one has ever said he hasn't aged. No one ever said that. He would make jokes about it. He would acknowledge it. And he would say, yes, I know I don't speak this as well as I used to. I don't walk as well as I used to. No one is saying that he didn't age. I'm talking about, did he have the questions that I was getting, the mental acuity? Was he able to govern? And the man that I saw nearly every day was someone who was engaging, understood policy, and was always putting the American people first. And it showed in what we were able to get done. I remember I saw him
I don't think
nearly
anybody
every
questioned
day.
his heart
Yeah.
or his policies,
Well, not even-
but it takes more than that to be the president of the United States. In a moment of great pressure on stage, we saw someone shock us and worry us, and nothing could assuage that worry. So I don't think it was necessarily a betrayal of Joe Biden, as other people saying, we don't think we were shown the
disagree,
Joe Biden that you
Stephen.
saw.
I saw every day a really ugly assault on someone who had 50 plus years of experience and who, again, objectively had done a good job as president of the United States. And it was heartbreaking to see that type of behavior.
I think all of that, everything you're saying, I cannot fault the factual basis of what you're saying or your feelings about it. Yeah. But what happened was the debate performance. Everything is downstream of that.
And no one is saying that the debate performance wasn't shocking, wasn't a disappointment. No one is saying that.
Disappointment is such a light term.
I use your words.
It was harrowing.
I use your words.
Okay, look, listen, we're never going to agree on this.
We're not.
Other than the fact
but-
that I'm glad that you came here tonight and
I
telling me to
appreciate
wrap
that.
over there. Would you like to say one more
appreciate
thing
that,
before we
but I
go?
do think that
Oh man, that's a rough day. By the way, I do like, nobody's saying that debate wasn't a terrible. Excuse me, dear. You were saying at the time that he was fine. Literally, like daily, when challenged. There's nothing wrong with it. Now nobody's saying that there wasn't a problem back then with the debate. She literally got paid with your tax dollars to go out there and say everything was fine with the debate. So even Colbert couldn't handle it. And did you notice you heard the exact same story 3 different times in the exact same way with the exact same words? I take this question very, very seriously. You didn't take it seriously when it mattered. When he had his finger on the nuclear button, when he was in control of the nuclear triad, when he was the commander in chief of our troops. You didn't take it seriously then. And we don't take you seriously now. You know how bad this rollout was for her book? On day 1, she was reduced to the Bulwark podcast with Tim Miller, and she couldn't even handle Tim Miller. Where are the puka shells, by the way? So I got to watch Karine Jean-Pierre without the Raggedy Ann hair, and I got to look at Tim Miller without the puka shells? What is this world coming to?
Like, the notion that this person was up for being president to 2028, was up for the communications responsibility of this job and fighting. No, well, if he won again, he would have to have been president all the way till 2028. I think that's an absurd thing to suggest, that he could have been president. Do you think he could have been president in 2028?
I can't speak to that. Here's what I.
Well, obviously, no.
Well,
But
I can't speak to that. That was literally her job. Do you think he could have been president through 2028? Well, 1 year ago, she stood in the the briefing room and said, of course he's capable of being president for 4 more years. Now, I can't speak to that. It's just incredible to watch. It's so bad. Who's buying this book? I sort of understood why people bought Kamala Harris's book as soon as we learned that she sharpened the fingernails and threw people under the bus. and she was a complete bitch to people who worked on the campaign and to the Biden family. Okay, fine. I'm here for that. But this? Who's buying this? Tim Miller ain't buying it.
In 2023, the winter and spring of 2023, we were coming out a successful midterm elections for Democrats in the sense that we didn't have a red wave. And it was seen as one of the most successful first.
You lost the House.
No, but remember, it was supposed to be a red. I'm not saying.
I know, but
but historically, if you look at other first-term presidents, the midterm elections, right? Okay, just follow me for a second.
sure,
No, we're not going to follow you. I love that even Miller can't take it. Spring of 23, we came off that incredibly successful midterm. You literally lost control of the House. The gavel moved from Pelosi to McCarthy at the time. That was a huge success. And she can't help herself. She wrote half of these lies, and so she's just going to keep shoveling the bullshit. And Miller ain't having it, which is just a hilarious thing to watch. All right, one more. I'm sorry. I know I'm showing you the Bulwark podcast. I feel like I got to go to confession after this show. I'm so sorry, but it's worth it just to laugh at Karine Jean-Pierre.
He did have legislative wins.
sure.
And
But he
that
didn't
is-
talk about him that well, though. He couldn't talk about him. He wasn't
No,
campaigning
no,
that
no. Wait,
vigorously.
first of all, he did talk about them. Whether it broke through or not, he did. Tim, he did talk about.
I mean, he talked way less to the press than Donald Trump does. Way less. And he wasn't out there at all. He wasn't good off the cuff. He wasn't doing press conferences. Let's just be real. Like, he didn't do night events.
Tim, that's not true. Tim, you're conflating all of it. That's what
I'm
you're
not.
doing. No, you're telling me he didn't talk well about it. Then you're telling me he didn't talk at all.
He didn't do either. He didn't
No,
talk very
he-
often, and when he did, it wasn't very good.
Yeah,
He sounded very
maybe
old.
you
and
weren't
feeble.
paying attention to what we were doing at the White House. But
I paid attention. I'm with you on the policies. I'm talking about his performance.
The president spoke to the American people a couple times a week. He traveled and did domestic travel and talked directly to the American people.
He talked. Okay, first of all, I think on behalf of everyone watching this unfortunate split screen from the Bulwark, could I please implore whoever is doing the audio-visual technology for Karine Jean-Pierre, 2 words: zoom out. Please, we don't need the nostril cam here. I feel like I'm giving her a facial of some sort. The pores need some cleansing. I'm no esthetician, all right? Dang. But number 2, I love, like, he talked to the American people all the time. He talked to the press. Tim Miller's like, what are you talking about? Trump gives 4 press conferences a day. And Karine Jean-Pierre's like, are you kidding? We communicated with the American people all the time. Don't you remember when we would put out a 90-second Instagram video with 55 edits in it? That was my idea. It's just an absolute unmitigated disaster, and we love it. This is so great. And the fact that it was all left-wing media that chewed her up and spit her out makes it that much more satisfying. But can I just say something real fast? And again, she's a disaster. Awful. Terrible. It's brilliant. But Mika and Joe and the folks at Morning Joe and Gail and the team over at CBS Mornings and Stephen Colbert and Tim Miller and everyone over there at the Bulwark, the house that Bill Kristol built. I'm sorry. Now you're all challenging Karine Jean-Pierre. Now you're all pointing out what a disaster Joe Biden was. Now you're angry at her. Now, where were you? Where were you last year when it was obvious to all of us and we were called names and told that we were liars and propagandists? Where were you during the entire Biden administration where we were pointing out disasters in his policy? And then we got censored and canceled and deplatformed and demonetized. Where were you then? Where were you in 2020 when he was running from his basement and he was a disaster? Where were you on the Afghanistan pullout? Where were you? Suddenly, you're all supposed to get credit because you're challenging this liar for lying on behalf of the liar you supported. Sorry. Sorry, the game is not played that way. You're just as guilty. The only reason you get some moment of pretend redemption is because it's only your shows that Karine Jean-Pierre would dare go on to try to sell her pathetic little book. Bernie Sanders is, well, kind of melting down before our eyes. Let's face it. He's a communist and he's reached a certain age. And it doesn't end well for people like Bernie Sanders. When they get a little too old, next thing you know, he's embalmed in a glass coffin at Red Square and people are lining up to pay their respects. And, you know, it's not a good look. But that said, he's got a few more years left. And Bernie Sanders is now having trouble with all the people in the media who loved him because his messaging is getting a little incoherent. And the criticisms are coming from some interesting places. Take a look at this. It's The View. And Bernie tried to do his whole show there and explain how the government shutdown is a great thing and it's all the Republicans' fault. And we're trying to fix healthcare. We're the only country with an oligarchy that doesn't, you know the shtick by now. Well, something funny happened.
Look, Trump may be crazy and he may be a liar and he may do, you describe, I mean, it's hard to imagine a president. I mean, I don't know what world these guys live in. President of the United States dropping feces on an American city.
Right.
All right. They may be all of those things, but this is what they are not. They're not stupid. And they are good politicians. And they're going to look at, if you think you're, why do you think the Republicans are hiding out right now?
Yeah.
Mike Johnson, the speaker, has given them, I got in their 5th week of vacation.
Yeah.
They're not coming to work. You want to negotiate? They ain't there. All right. So I think that when people all over this country are looking at these notices and say, I can't pay a doubling of my health insurance premiums,
Right.
Republicans will understand that and come to the table.
Okay, so first of all, obviously that's a lie. Congress isn't on vacation. They're in recess, which means they're back in their districts and their home communities and talking to voters and getting work done there, something Bernie Sanders doesn't know anything about because he's a permanent resident of Washington, D.C. He only goes to Vermont to go and hang out in his mansion that he bought up there, number one. But number two, did you hear how angry he is over Trump's AI meme video where he was dropping sewage on all the No Kings protesters? Why is it they're more upset about that little AI meme than they are about, I don't know, the assassination of Charlie Kirk or the fantasy assassination of little children that the Attorney General nominee for the Democrats in Virginia has been exposed for fantasizing? It's like we cannot tolerate Trump dumping these things in an AI animated video. It's like, where have you been for the last 10 years? This is who he is. He does stuff like that. The American people don't care. Why do you care so much? And it's because they have nothing else to say. But then here's what happened where things started to turn. He thought he could do his old shtick there. And watch what happened when what's her name? Haynes asked a very simple proposition for Democrats who were part of this shutdown about their paychecks, because it does seem kind of weird that Congress gets paid during the shutdown, doesn't it?
Be powerful, though, is if Congress didn't take their money while they were waiting. Because right now, it's hard to imagine it's incentivized. It's easier for the politicians in D.C. to go away from each other and say, we will win this way, while people are losing their paychecks. If Congress just said, we're not going to take our paychecks till we figure this out, that would be a noble step in the right direction, I would
think
say.
that's not everybody can afford to do. You got some young people there with kids there.
Either can the people that aren't getting paid, though.
I think that's a fair point. I think that's a fair point.
I cannot believe what I just saw. I cannot believe what I just saw on The View. You know, I think it would be a pretty smart political move if Congress, you 535 elected officials who have sort of caused this whole thing, if you don't take your paychecks either until the government's reopened. Well, that makes sense. But, some of the younger members of Congress, not the multimillionaires like me, who has 3 mansions and a yacht, and I fly private wherever I go with that cute little Latinx from the Bronx. Not everyone in Congress is like us, and then it's hard for them to make it week to week without a paycheck. Do you realize the kind of suffering that they're going to have to endure by doing that? And she's like, well, yeah, what about the postal workers and the air traffic controllers and the, 25-year-old corporal in the Marines who's got a wife and a baby? It's kind of hard for them too, isn't it? It's the elitism, the tone deaf, arrogant elitism that you have to possess to actually say those words. Not every congressman, it's a hardship. It's too hard for them to go without a paycheck. When he is literally the one who is keeping government workers from getting their paycheck. Incredible. And then when talked about the subject of weaponizing the government against citizen comes up, which, by the way, we could talk quite a bit about weaponizing the government here because, Republicans, conservatives, Trump supporters, we've been the victim of that for quite some time now. Well, here's Bernie's take.
Let George Santos out of jail. At the same time, though, that he's going after folks like James Comey and Letitia James. So how are you feeling about this, what I think most Americans see as an unequal display of judicial accountability and the weaponizing of government?
And he just happened to pardon, well, was it over 1,000 people who tried to overthrow the United States government?
Yeah.
January 6th.
All right. And meanwhile, in an unprecedented way, and this is scary stuff, he is going after the Attorney General of the state of New York because she did her job, going after a sitting United States senator, going after the former head of the FBI. That is not what America is about. We disagree with each other, that's fine, but we don't throw our opponents in jail.
Did you notice the View audience is like, wait a minute. Wait, you mean except when it's Trump, right? Right? That's not what America is about. But Bernie, hold on. Trump isn't going after Tish James and John Bolton and James Comey. Those were federal grand juries who, under a U.S. attorney, voted for an indictment. Hold on. Are you wait a second. Bernie Sanders, are you suggesting that the U.S. Justice Department, in impaneling a grand jury, could be in some way acting in a corrupt fashion to bring an indictment against innocent people just to harm them politically? How is that possible? Are you sure? That's an outrageous indictment of the U.S. justice system. I cannot believe that Bernie would suggest such a thing. To think that one would weaponize the government against an innocent person. It didn't get any better for him when he appeared on Jon Stewart's Daily Show last night. Understand that coming out of Washington, D.C., the messaging has been, hey, Republicans have the White House, Republicans have the House, Republicans have the Senate. So if there's a government shutdown, that's all the Republicans' fault. It's their fault, right? Except then this happened. Two things that happened there. The first is the original premise of the entire subject there from Jon Stewart. Listen to what he says. Listen to his words.
Themselves in a place is we've shut down the government.
Who's shut down the government? We Democrats have shut down the government. And then he goes on to say we shut down the government to make this point because we want to prop up and protect and defend this system that is a disaster and is broken. And by the end of it, Bernie Sanders agreed and said, yes, it's a horrible system. That's why we need Medicare for all, which is single-payer, government-controlled healthcare like they have in the United Kingdom and Canada. Go ahead and ask your friends, the Canucks up north, who haven't won a Stanley Cup in decades, what it's like to try to get an MRI. That's what Bernie Sanders wants here in the United States of America. But Bernie just admitted that the entire system is corrupted and broken. I'm sorry, what system is that exactly? That would be Obamacare. That would be the Affordable Care Act that Bernie Sanders just admitted is a disaster. So he admitted that they're shutting down the government. The Democrats are responsible for it, and they're doing it to prop up and protect a system that they broke. Thank you. But then they went further. It gets even better.
But again, this.
And then he goes on to do his communist socialist spiel where the government should control everything and control the means of production. So no, there's no longer a middleman for tuition. The government just pays tuition and it's free university for everybody. And we pay for everything else and there's no middleman. There's no that's communism. I mean, you don't want that, of course, obviously, because we've seen how that works out in other countries. But do you hear that again? He recognizes, and Jon Stewart suddenly recognizes exactly what happens with Democrat policies, because it's every policy that he just laid out there. Did you hear what he said? We'll watch it together again. When Democrats fund endless subsidies for things like healthcare or for tuition or what have you, whatever you just name it, all we see is the cost of those things go up and up and up, and it's the government and your tax dollars that go to pay for it. And whenever these systems are proposed, whenever there's projections out there and they try to, we expect this will cost this much over the next 10 years, they do it based on basic free market economic principles and inflationary, criteria that are reasonable and normal under any normal circumstances. But this isn't a normal circumstance because the government has unlimited funds. They can just print money, and suddenly you see the cost of all of those things that they're suddenly subsidizing skyrocket, whether it's college tuition or whether it's health insurance or what have you. Just watch it again. It's critically important when people of the left, like Jon Stewart, recognize how broken the system is. Now, their solution is total control of the government, which, by the way, ironically, doesn't fix the problem. And it also ruins your economy and takes away your freedoms. But other than that, it's a great idea. Why? Who funds the Democrat politicians who run for office and attain power? Think about who he just laid out there, who are the biggest beneficiaries of this broken system. The healthcare industry, the pharmaceutical companies, universities and academia, and the teachers union. You see the connection here? You see how it works? It's not to solve the problem. It's to retain power. And in politics, you get power two ways. You win an election, and those Democrats get lots of money from all those entities who benefit from the government giving your tax dollars and printing more money and giving it to them. And so then they fund the campaigns and then they retain power. The other way to get power is to buy it. When you're in charge of doling out all the money to all those places, you've got a lot of power. Everybody wants to be your friend. Everybody wants to do whatever they can to be on your good side. So you get some of that money too. And that's the entire system the Democrats have created. And they're in danger of losing now because a new way of approaching how the government functions is in the air. It's the America First policies embodied by Trump and by J.D. Vance. And that's why things seem a little heightened right now. So you just saw Bernie Sanders get completely roasted and exposed on two liberal left-wing media platforms. The View, owned by ABC News Disney, hello, and then Comedy Central, owned by CBS Viacom, hello. And so what is Bernie Sanders' solution to all of this?
What they are trying to do, and I touched on this a little bit in my remarks, is to say to ordinary people, hey, look, we got ICE agents breaking down doors. We got U.S. troops in Portland and Chicago. We're powerful. We are really powerful. You got nothing. Who are you? We got Elon Musk. We got all of the billionaires on our side. We own the media. Our people are buying elections. You can't run against us because we have so much money. And by the way, we control it all. You're nothing. Go home. Who the hell do you think you are? Mm-hmm. You want to protest? Fine. Doesn't matter. We got all the power.
Republicans have all the power. Did you catch that? Republicans, conservatives own the media. Conservatives own the media. Now, I would quibble with you and maybe argue with you if you suggest that conservatives actually own the media in the truest sense of the word, like it is a possession of conservatives who are controlling things, like they own CBS or they own Disney, as being in the C-suite or the CEO's office or being the majority stockholder. Obviously, that's just not true. If you mean we own the media because we're just so damn good at it, and we own your butt, well, yeah, that's true. We're much better at it. than the lazy lefties. The Democrats are in absolute disarray right now. Bernie Sanders is the best communicator they've got, and that's the best he can bring to the table. Which begs a pretty important question, I think, at this point, for all of us trying to observe and figure out what the hell's going on with this political party in America.
The Faulkner Focus hit the streets, as we often do, to talk with people and ask them who they believe the leader of the Democrat Party is. Let's watch.
I am a Democrat. Nobody. Oh, that's a good question.
Ooh, I don't know. That's a hard one.
I'm not too sure.
Oh, man. I don't know.
I don't think they have a leader.
I don't think we really have one.
I feel like we don't have enough leading.
They need to find one. You think that the Democrats would have just someone out there who actually could lead them?
Where are the plans? All you ever hear is how bad he is. Talk about how you're going to put food on the table, pay the bills.
Yeah, there you go. They don't have a leader. It's weird, though, because usually, listen, it happens all the time that one political party loses and loses big time. It happened to Republicans back in 2008 and 2012 when Obama won the presidency and Democrats retained control of the House and the Senate. It happens, right? It just happens. And then the political party sort of picks up the pieces and they figure it out. For instance, here, I'll give you a perfect example. In 2008, when Obama beat John McCain for the presidency, it's like, well, now what are we going to do? We're not in the House, we're not in the Senate, we're not in the White House. Republicans don't have a leader. But you see, usually it's those politicians who ran in the primaries. They sort of emerge, like Mitt Romney, who came in second place to John McCain. He ended up becoming the nominee in 2012, but he was a voice. He was somebody who could lead, that people would turn to. Other politicians as well, like Newt Gingrich and Rick Santorum and Mike Huckabee, they had all participated in the primaries, and they became big voices for the Republicans to help them coalesce. So all we got to do is look at the Democrats' process that they had last year, and look at all of the other candidates that they had that fell short of Kamala Harris during the primaries and the caucuses. And wait a second. They didn't do anything like that. They had the White House. It was Joe Biden. He resigned in disgrace from the ticket and then just shuffled out of the White House when Trump was inaugurated, not to be seen again. And then you had Kamala Harris, who didn't go through a process of any sort to figure out who the leader should be. She was just coronated. She failed miserably. So now, yeah, okay. I guess they do just have Bernie. Bernie. That's all they got. Oh, and Tim Walz. That's it for today's show. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Thanks for all the likes and subscribes. Huge jump in subscriptions over the last week or two, and we really much appreciate that. And I saw somebody comment early in the show. I do watch the chat when I can or when a video is playing and I can take a quick break. And did you see this, Kevin, when they said, did Larry ever do his 600,000 subscribers special?
I did see that comment.
Yeah.
Do you have an answer for him?
Well, the answer is no, we did not do that, did we? Did we, Kevin?
You're saying that as if it's my fault.
I am saying that as if it's your fault. It's nobody's fault. Let's not get bogged down in whose fault it is.
We'll do a special evening stream one of these days.
We owe you that. I'll be honest, we do owe you that. Maybe we should do it on Halloween. Maybe we should do like a spooky Halloween. No, because nobody's home on Halloween.
Yeah, I'm going to be trick-or-treating, so I'm not going to be free for that.
Ooh, what are you dressing as for Halloween?
I've had some ideas.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do an Anakin Skywalker.
Wait,
I think I've run out
as the little kid or the mullet getting married to what's your name?
Padme. What do you think?
Padme. Thank you. Sorry. I think you should be like the 5-year-old and have a little little racer.
Pod racing. I've run out of mustache costumes though.
Oh, you were already were you Mario and Luigi?
That's one I haven't done, but I've done
come on, it's you got to be the MAGA Mario.
I did Ted Lasso.
I remember that one. That was a good one.
I would love to do be the bandit from Smokey and the Bandit. That's on my list.
You know, with your mustache, Kevin, all you got to do is put a sombrero on and you're Hakeem Jeffries. Bandit would be good from Smokey and the Bandit. You do. It's a bit of a Burt Reynolds look you got going. People forget what you look like. So, we have to get to the to the super chats. We do. I got a train to catch, by the way. Let's get going here. Lady Cop with a $2 super chat. Yay, you're on time today, Lady Cop. We're very happy you're on time. And if you ever pull me over for speeding on the turnpike, please be kind to me, okay? Give me a Jay Jones treatment there. Thank you, Lady Cop. Stumble Boots, $2 super chat. You're cool too. Ooh, that was really out of focus. Thank you, Stumble Boots. Ball State alum with a $10 super chat. Okay, this is all well and good, Larry, but are we going to discuss the awesomeness of the glorious sweater vest? You know, I don't know why this is controversial. This is a completely appropriate wardrobe choice. I saw a lot of commentary about the sweater vest. Is it do people approve of it, Kevin, or is it
I think
controversial?
Universally, people agree that class is in session with Professor O'Connor.
Oh, God. It's kind of a Raven's Claw look, right? Kind of like it. Thank you, Jeff. Angela, $2 super chat. My husband, Joe, had a stroke. Oh, God. Angela, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to have a chipper voice as I was reading that. I'm terribly sorry, and we will pray for, please, everybody, keep Angela's husband, Joe, in your prayers. And we hope the Lord will help him heal. Love and compassion with 100 Mexican pesos. Hello. Muchas gracias, amor y compasión. Huh? Larry, you're doing an amazing job breaking everything down in detail. Keep up the great work. And now I did the math. 100 pesos is $5. Happy to chip in as much as I can. Wow, the currency is going great down there. Thank you for the $5. We're very grateful for the 100 Mexican pesos. Thank you. Patrick with £5. Democrat senators are literally too terrified to speak up against their own party. Isn't that the very definition of authoritarianism? Well, wait, they're, I suppose so. I guess that is a good definition of it. The reasonable minded are terrified lest they get punished, but they're also terrified of the voters. You know, the ones that bring guillotines to their protests. Thank you, Patrick. God's best friend with a £2 super chat. Amazing how Karine saw the amazing Joe. Yeah, she's the only one. It's like the Sixth Sense. I see dead people. I see Joe as competent. Thank you, God's best friend. £5 super chat from GBF. I'm buying this book. It's a proof that vegetables' lives matter. You know what? You should buy that book, but as a anecdote, you should also buy my book. I've got a lot in here about Karine Jean-Pierre. Imagine the discipline it took for me not to promote my book after that segment. My book has plenty about KJP and the decline of Joe Biden. Patrick, £5 super chat. Why does nobody ask Bernie Sanders to explain why, if he is so anti-billionaire, did he speak at the No Kings rally, which was funded by billionaires? Thank you. No, it's the certain kind of billionaire. He likes their billionaires. He likes their billionaires, Patrick. I think that's the moral there. GBF with a £2 super chat. Own nothing and be happy. What's not to like? Yeah, I mean, that's works every time when you're in a communist state. Look at how happy everyone in Venezuela seems. William Ramey with $5 super chat. Thank you, William. Bernie has stopped railing against the millionaires since he himself is one. Now he only rails against the billionaires until he becomes one. That's how it works. Some animals are more equal than others. Thank you, William. GBF with £2. The Dem leader, the auto pen, or the Easter bunny. I'm still pulling for Karine Jean-Pierre. Maybe she'll run. That's what they need. So true. £5 super chat. Hey, Larry, it's black and white and eats like a horse, a zebra. What's black and white and eats like a horse? A zebra. I'm here all week.
There's a stand-up career in their future.
I think they should stick with 80s cover music. I heard it. What's black and white and red all over? And it was a zebra with a spear through its head stuck in a revolving door. Right? Isn't that how it went? I was a dark child. Psychological projectionist with £2. KJP explains stupid like we're stupid. Well, what's the old Forrest Gump phrase? Thank you, guys. Is that it? That's plenty. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Thanks for being you. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time, different place. But in the meantime, my name's Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.